There's a lot of buzz going around about whether or not Mitch Trubisky will be back with the Steelers in 2023 as the backup quarterback. I know, we already discussed this a week ago whenever Mr. Rooney did his interview, and he said he does expect Mitch to be back.
Early in the off season, but I expect Mitch will be on the roster next year and be an effective backup if we need him. I think he showed that he can be that we can win with him, and so I think he'll be on the roster next year. Yeah.
And my response to that answer was, there's no way. He's just saying that to say it, because if the Steelers do release Mitch, it would be $8 million freed up on the cap space. Yet, Mitch is still here, and you also have insiders like Jerry Dulac writing articles like this one. The Steelers want Mitch Trubisky back, but it's a complicated situation. So that's why we got to discuss this further. It essentially comes down to whether or not the Steelers want a backup quarterback with a $10 million cap hit. Now that Kenny's still on his rookie deal, it wouldn't be the end of the world if that took place. I just don't know if it's the smartest thing to do either, but that's one option. Option two, as I mentioned, they could cut or trade him, which would free up $8 million on the salary cap. Option three, Mitch could take a pay cut, but I don't know why he'd want to do that. Take a pay cut and be okay with being the backup for a team that you feel like gave you the short end of the stick last season. I don't really think that adds up. Or option four, and this one's the most fascinating to me. Shout out to Steelers Depot for coming up with these facts and figures. But they could do a restructure on his deal like they did with some of the contracts during COVID and add voidable years, which would get his cap hit for 2023 to around $5 million, which would make more sense, being that around $5 million is usually a deal you give to a good backup, a solid backup, which is what I think Mitch would be for the Steelers. The problem is you just got to deal with those voidable years over the next 4 seasons, which is $1.3 million of dead cap per clip. I don't know if that's considered a lot or a little. One side of me says, $1.3 million in dead cap, not that big of a deal, especially with the salary cap space increasing year after year. But at the same time, it's like $1.3 million of dead cap for the next 4 seasons, and this is due to Mitch Trubisky. I could see that being a little bit of a nuisance. But all these options are under the assumption that Mitch wants to be back. And we just don't know that right now, because if he doesn't want to be back, what does Tomlin say? We want volunteers, not hostages. I would assume that the Steelers would try to move him. But again, we haven't heard from Mitch. And if I had to make the assumptions, though, I don't think he wants to be back. But the more I think about this from the Steelers' perspective, it may not be the worst idea to bring Mitch back, just because you're going to have to pay a backup quarterback or quarterbacks anyway. And if you're looking for a guy like Jacoby Brissett, who is a little bit more of a high-end backup, who would make sense, bring that veteran presence onto the team, he could help out Kenny, he's probably going to go for like $5 million, because that's what his last 2 deals were. Like, if you think of the math on all this, if you cut Mitch, you would have a $2 million of dead cap. If you sign Brissett then, because you have a backup quarterback opening, you're probably going to have to pay him around $5 million. So right there, that's $7 million, maybe 7 and some change in total for your backup quarterback. You don't have Mitch on the roster anymore. But if you were to just keep Mitch and not go that route of cutting him, sign another backup, that would be a $10 million cap hit. So for $3 million in savings, just to do all that, cut Mitch, bring in another quarterback like a Brissett, is it really worth it? Part of me thinks I would rather just keep Mitch, because I do think Mitch is a better player than a Brissett at this stage of both of their careers. I don't know, though. I'm just giving you guys some options from what I've seen throughout the interwebs. I'm more open to Mitch coming back. I still don't think he wants to be back that bad, but that's something him and his agent are probably going through right now, because what if they are looking across the league and no one's willing to give him a chance to be a starter, or at least be in a competition to be a starter? Maybe it would be wise for him to come back with the Steelers. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know if any of this new information changes your opinion, if you want Mitch back or not. If we are to look for another backup quarterback, who would you guys want that to be? Drop all those suggestions down in the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Big Deke News, though. Stay chilling on a Wednesday. Peace.